What's up, y'all? You are listening to For the Artists, a podcast brought to you by Creative M Projects, which is a tax exempt 501c3 organization. Yes, I do shout that out with some pride because that is not an easy thing to get, but let me not digress, okay? Um, we are an organization that's helping young artists develop from the inside out, and I am your host, Melissa Cherie, for today's show. We have a feature that is just beautiful and amazing. I've met her, a couple months ago now, probably a few months ago. And she's just a joy. I love getting to know her. I was very excited to be able to invite her to come on the podcast. But let me tell you her name. First of all, you're probably like, okay, who is it already? Her name is Ruth Angela-Patren, y'all. And she is bringing the heat. She's in the LA area, okay? But don't get it twisted because she was born in Berkeley, California. And raised in Oakland. Now, if you know the Bay, the Yay area, you already know the vibe. Okay, both of her parents were pastors. Cool. Ruth earned her BA from a small Christian university and her MA in classical music from CSU East Bay. She is a professional bassoonist. And let me tell you, she's the only bassoonist that I know personally. So, bam. She studied classical music and bassoon with some of the top musicians in the world. She performed regularly with the Oakland Youth Orchestra, the San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra. She toured parts of Europe. She won 2 concerto competitions. She began her journalism career in high school, won an award then. She worked for a small newspaper for 4 years. Oh my gosh, we can go on and on. She has a passion for women's health, healing, and wholeness. What else can I tell you about her? We're going to get into this because she put it in her bio, but her mom did pass away from cancer in 1999. And that caused her to take a deep dive into researching health, which is how we connected. But we could talk about that. She traveled to SoCal to start fresh after that, where she then attended Fuller Seminary and she met her husband, Matthew. She has some beautiful boys. She can shout them out. She creates art out of a place of worship to God, and she has had numerous mystical experiences with God. Man, Ruth, welcome. I could go on and on, okay? But I can't tell your whole story in the intro, so.
Right. It's hard.
I'm so glad
so
you said yes.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited. um, it's just an honor. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to know you and meet you. And I am loving your background.
Thank you. It's
It's
one of my
beautiful.
paintings, the Bliss River.
The Bliss River. Okay,
Yeah.
that kind of looks like, well, I can't show it to you, but we have a piece. It's not as blissful, but it's
Okay.
kind of reminiscent of that. And it was created live at our first give-a-thon.
Oh,
And I've actually put it
nice.
up maybe once or twice. But anyway, yours is more blissful, like I said. I love it.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
So you paint, you do sketches, you play the
I
bassoon.
do.
Oh my gosh. First, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, did you start playing the bassoon first or did you start
Well,
painting first or what?
painting.
You did.
Yeah, my mother is just, she was very creative. Um, she could have worked for Dolce. I always say that.
Aw.
And my Halloween costumes were amazing because of my
Mhm.
mom. Um, and that's where my creativity came from. And so, yeah, I started out probably writing and sketching first as a
Mhm.
child. And then the thing about the bassoon is you have to be big enough to play it.
Mm.
It's for people who don't know, it's you play it like a saxophone. So a lot of bassoon players play sax, not me, but you play it off to the side. And I won't demonstrate today because I'm really rusty and it's really loud. It looks like a wooden bedpost. That's a great way to describe it.
Okay.
Bass, as in bass,
Mhm.
bass un. It's a bass instrument, so it's very low, woody, resonant sounding instrument, and it stuck to me. I started around age 10, and I went through other instruments, and I was blessed to go to a private school in Oakland. It wasn't the best private school, but it
Mm-hmm.
was better than public school at the time.
Okay.
And the guy that was doing music there, he had learned all of the instruments. So he had a music ed degree from Cal State and um, the San Francisco Conservatory. And so he would match your personality with an instrument, which is a really gifted thing to do.
Yeah.
And it took him a while. And finally, after many failures, I landed on the bassoon and I loved it because it was unique and no one else was really playing it. And I was very competitive. There was one girl, but she wasn't competitive. So I quickly passed her by. I got really good. And I can say that with confidence because I practiced.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, I, I don't think it was talent as much as just practicing. Um, 2 hours, sometimes 7 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
like practicing, maybe taking one day off, and you get good at anything when you practice that much. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
put the time
Hmm.
in.
Put your time in.
So wait though, hold on though, okay? Because there are people. I'm gonna have to disagree with you for a quick second. Because you know what? There are people that will
Hmm.
practice
Yeah.
something repeatedly, and they still don't get good at it. They're not really good at it to begin with, but they try,
Right.
they try, they try, they try. So you
Right.
obviously had some sort of gift or a knack or a talent for it.
I think so. I think so. And I have to give credit to my teachers. Um, and I had good teachers who would sit with me, get to know me, and especially my teacher who he's in the San Francisco Opera Orchestra, and he also played in the San Francisco Ballet Orchestra, which some people think are the same orchestra, but it's two different orchestras. He
Hmm.
was the first African American, or one of the only African Americans to play in either of those orchestras, and everyone loved him. He was like a second father to me.
Mm.
And so he would take his time, get to know me, and then do the work, you know? So my lessons were so fun. And his name was Rufus Olivier. So I'll have to send him a copy of this. And he would tell me, don't tell people my lessons are fun, you know. But they were. And he taught me how to play with soul.
Hmm.
And so it got to the point where when I was at Cal State, people would say, "Oh, I can tell you studied with Rufus because you sound just like him. You have the soul." People would start to try to sound like me to play with soul.
Mm.
So, yeah, practice. You can practice and be technically good. And then
Mm.
there's practicing to play with soul and really affect the listener. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Affect
Mhm.
the listener. I like that you
Mhm.
went there because you know I want to hang on that for a second.
All
Playing
right.
with soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, get into that a little bit more. I mean, it's
Okay.
kind of self. I mean, it's kind of obvious. You know what I mean? Like when we hear singers, when we hear players, there's
Right.
usually something that stands out that resonates with us that we're
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like it strikes a nerve. But
Yeah.
in terms of how Rufus was able to, do you feel like it was more of like an imparting, or did he like really, what were the nuances of teaching you how to play with soul?
Looking back, I wasn't as aware, but it was probably an impartation, definitely. Um, he would say, make the instrument sing, you
Mm,
know, and he would say, don't wrap yourself around the instrument, make it come to you, and then it works for you. I had a lot of issues physically with the instrument. It's a huge, heavy instrument. You guys can Wikipedia bassoon or look up Rufus on YouTube, and yeah, and it's so my thumb keys. This thumb had 4 or 5 keys, so your thumb does a lot of work on the
hmm
left hand, and then the instrument rests on the left hand, and then you have 10 thumb keys on the right hand. So you're busy. Um, but with soul, it was making the instrument sing, and you're telling a story every time you sit down to play. You're telling a story, and I think it was just the Lord resting on me.
Mm-hmm.
Was raised in a very interesting home. Interesting is a loaded word, but and I didn't have a TV growing
Mm-hmm.
up, so there was nothing to do but school, and I wasn't really into being athletic, so that music thing took, and that was my outlet. That was my stress relief. It helped my brain to organize my thoughts. So I always recommend, just as a side note, if you have a child who, say, is autistic or dyslexic, get
Mm-hmm.
them in music, get them involved. Start with the drums or piano, guitar. It will help. Yeah.
Were
So
you the only one that was musical in your family?
no, but I was the only one that took it really seriously to the nth degree.
Ah!
um, my dad sang. He still sings. My dad will be, he doesn't like me to say how old he is, but he'll be 96 this year.
Wow.
And yeah, and so we have longevity in our family. He sings and he collects the Negro spirituals. He has a whole
Mm-hmm.
collection, and our church would have him sing in church, and it was a beautiful thing. Um, my sister played the viola, which is sort of like violin, but a little bigger and more jokes about it. So, there's a lot of viola jokes, but she did very well. She had a good ear. We both had good ears.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is our church was more traditional, liturgical kind of. So we would uh, sing the old hymns, like the Gaithers.
Mm-hmm.
um, Very, one, two, three, four. And there was, so the organ player would just randomly pull a song out of the book, and you could sit there, the hymnal, you could sit there and thumb through, or you could say, forget it, I'm just going to figure out the key. And, so after a while, I would just play along. I'd find the key somehow in my soul, and I would play along with the organ player. And the founder pastor, she used to do revivals, so she would pull songs from way back that were not in the hymnal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was rough for a while. But yeah, playing by ear. My mom, she tried a few instruments, but she wasn't really musical, but she really appreciated music and supported me. She had a harp growing up, so the harp was always in the corner of our house. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
yeah.
beautiful. Can you play the harp too?
No. This, I don't know what it is. The string instruments, it didn't take. Yeah.
uh yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the guitar. The
Oh,
guitar didn't take my fingers. It was too painful. It was too
yeah.
much. I mean, I would
I
love to be
understand.
able
Yeah.
to just pick it up and play it with and just sing along
Mm-hmm.
with myself, but
Right.
yeah, I don't think that's my gifting.
Yeah. Keep looking. You find something,
I might
Mhm.
get a ukulele.
There you go.
That seems
Yeah.
small and manageable and like it won't hurt my fingers.
Right. Yeah. The
We'll-
strings are smaller.
Yeah,
Mm.
we'll try that, but anyway. So, let's see. There was something that you said and I was like, "Do you or do you not wish to elaborate?" Cuz you said that your
Okay.
family well, not your family, but I guess yeah, your family life your was interesting. And that was a
Yes.
loaded interesting word.
Well, I'll start with this. My family, I have no regrets about how I was raised.
Mhm.
I really don't. It shaped me. But there were things about family life that were very abusive to my mother and my sister and I.
Mhm.
And in the Black community, we don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, abuse and depression. And when life doesn't go the way you really want it to go, and you're hurting. Um, and my mom was ordained at 16, and decided to marry my dad. The marriage was sort of arranged by the pastor. So there was abuse coming down from the pastor into the families in the church. And pastor was white with a multicultural church.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. And she didn't have a lot of it. Apparent, I could say allegedly, it looked like she didn't have a lot of accountability. So you know how that goes with pastors that don't have accountability. There's a lot of mess that
Yeah.
happens behind the scenes. So I got to see the dark underbelly of the world of church.
Mm.
um, I still love God and I know God for real because
Mm-hmm.
of all the stuff that I went through. And I see my dad almost as a victim of that system. We'll call it a system, regiment, or whatever.
Yeah.
And my mom put all of that behind her and hid behind my dad, in a matter of speaking. So she never preached at that church. But they had a K through 12, which I went through, and she was able to teach there and become vice principal. um, and that was it. There was this ceiling,
Mm.
this invisible ceiling for a lot of people there. And yeah, it was rough. There was a lot of things that were very painful, hurtful. Music was, I think it was like my portal of escape or something,
Yeah.
to keep me sane through all of that pain. Um, yeah, I could go on and on, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, we can hang there for a second because
sure.
I do think that that is one of the most beautiful and amazing things about just creativity in art in general. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I was talking to somebody earlier today, and it was like a neighbor, and they were
Mhm.
saying how, there's so many people that in our complex, and it's not a large complex, but like that do music in some way. Like there's a person in the corner, they play keys, there's another person plays guitar, there's like, there's another singer, and then it's like, when you think about the world, you
Mhm.
know and it's funny because a lot of people, there are people that'll be like, oh, I'm not creative. But I really feel like every single person
Yeah.
is creative in some way. And there's that interconnection of creativity that
Yeah.
really is a release. I mean, think about, I don't think there's too many times when people can go throughout an entire day and not touch some sort of creativity or art and it be like influential or impactful into how their day kind of rolled out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always think about this lady who was an accountant, and I always, until that moment, I always thought accountants were like the least creative people on earth. Sorry, I don't mean it. But I went in her office one day and there was this beautiful tapestry hanging there and it was rainbow. And I thought, wow, there's hope. I don't mean to badmouth accountants, but it's just like this burst of color. And I
Hmm.
thought, she does get it, there is that creativity there. Um, yeah, I mean, even coffee is creative, everyone gets coffee or tea or latte. There's creativity there. There's creativity in everything. Yeah. Yep.
Everything.
Hmm.
So, how are you? Because you have how many boys? Three.
I have two boys, a 7-year old and a 4-year-old.
Okay, a 7 year old. I'm trying to add one
Mhm.
on to you. Okay, a 7 year old and a 4 year old. Um, how do you foster creativity with them? Is it similar to how it was fostered in you, or are you more intentional about it?
Yeah, I'm a little more intentional. I don't uh hide them from TV like I was. So, because that ended up being a bad thing in the end, to
Mm.
grow up in a no TV home. I felt like I had to catch up
Mm-hmm.
when I was able to move out of the house and buy a TV. So, we let them watch videos. We're very careful with what they see, and we make sure that the time is limited. And as far as toys, I don't buy the expensive toys. I That's one area where I was very intentional to make sure that they can use their creativity. So my
Mm.
7-year-old, he's like his dad. He likes tech. He's very techy. So we have him coding, and he builds robots with his Legos, and
Mm-hmm.
he's amazing. He's like me a lot too, because he'll get a dream and
Mm-hmm.
he'll say, Mom, God gave me a dream and I'm going to build it. And so he'll dream about it and then he'll build it. And I'm just so proud of him.
Aw.
And then one time he drew it and then built what was in the drawing. So there's that. And then my 4-year-old is more of the painter, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll tell stories. He'll capture your attention and and say, and then he'll start talking and people will lean in and it makes no sense what he's saying, but he'll
Yeah.
tell you this long story. So yeah, so they're very creative and um I think I'm gonna have to get them drum lessons or something and burn
Ah.
the energy.
Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
might I might know someone I can ask for
Oh,
recommendation.
okay.
But oh, I was going to ask you this. So, you have made a career for yourself in music, yes or
No,
no?
I've actually made my career more in writing.
Mm.
Yeah, so those were the two things, or three, I should say, was writing, art, and music. So it's kind of a sad story, and then I have an uplifting.
Okay.
So during Cal State, when I was at Cal State East Bay, the master's program, I was probably the first African American to female to graduate with that degree. And
Mhm.
so I had a lot of freedom in one way, and then there was a lot of pressure. So I practiced a lot until my hands were just not moving.
Oh
So,
no.
in fact, before that, when we went to Europe, there was a cello player who wore hand braces and didn't even play the whole tour. She just came along. So I ended up having to wear braces and things. And my
On your
um,
hands?
yeah, on my hands, there was a lot of pain from all of the thumb keys and all the
Mm.
movement. So I don't say that I've quit. That I do a lot of writing. So I
Mhm.
still write songs for my boys. I write a lot of children's songs, so I would love to put them together in an album at some point. And they're funny, and some of them are scripture songs, and for memorizing the word. Um, During my graduate recital, um, my hand froze so much. It was hurting. I could barely move,
Oh
and I
wow.
had practiced so much until my hands almost broke. So dealing with that injury and then getting married, I played a lot at the House of Prayer,
Mhm.
or I played a little bit at the House of Prayer in Pasadena in Southern California here, and then I got married, and so it sort of went on hold. And I spent time. I was like, okay, God, I can't give it up. I went through all this school, and I felt like now I'm in a season of writing, just making sure I write down everything. I'm more of an arranger as well.
Mhm.
So I've arranged a lot of songs, and um, my boys get to hear them. So, yeah. So,
So
yeah,
that's how you made your switch,
that's how
official
I made the
switch.
switch. And I did do some teaching. I went to the Bible College in Oakland. I taught for 4 years, music fundamentals, ear training, or some people call it ear straining, and music theory. So, yeah. So I
Oh.
taught for 4 years, and then it was time to move south. So I moved to Southern California. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Mm,
let's let's talk about the transition, because
yeah.
I feel like that applies really to anyone. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what the career is, what your focus is. I feel like
Mhm.
there are times that happen in our life where we do have to make a choice to go in a
Right.
different direction, do
Yeah.
something new or do something different. And we may not necessarily want to, but we
Yeah.
kind of find ourselves in that place.
Yes.
Um, and I know you just mentioned how did you phrase it? You say you talk to God. There's something about God being in
Yes.
the you being able to do it. So,
Right. Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just talk maybe a little bit about maybe how important
Mm-hmm.
God was in terms of being able to make, because you're saying it's just rolling off your tongue like it was an easy thing to do, but I imagine that it probably wasn't. I mean, you were
Mm-hmm.
very passionate about the bassoon. You had been, like
Yeah.
you said, you've been practicing it for hours and hours every
Yes.
day, learning how to bring the soul, okay? And
Right.
now you're at a place where it's like, oh, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to make a shift. I'm gonna have to make a change. So
Right.
maybe you can speak a
Yeah.
little bit more into that. So, because I know somebody that's listening has either been in that place,
Mm-hmm.
is in that place, or yet to be in that place.
Right. Yes, it's a hard shift. And I just say I'm in a season. So I was very burned out when I moved to Southern California. So I need to start there. I was
Yeah.
crispy burnt. And
Crispy bird.
I was crispy on both ends. And I just needed the break and the change of scenery and the people, and there were people who had no faith that I could move and be successful. And they were not ashamed to tell me.
Mm.
And the Lord, I do talk about the Lord because I wouldn't have made it without God's grace and mercy and just knowing, deep down in my knower
Yeah.
that I am supposed to go on this journey. And I do talk to God a lot, even with my novel. So I sat down, I had this green chair where I used to live, up north. And I felt like God said, why don't you count all your jobs? I had so many part time jobs. And then he said, count all your volunteer positions. It was like 10 things.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, no wonder I'm tired. And he's like, you could sit in this chair and you're going to die in this chair, or follow me, move south. And I knew that it meant something about my husband and a family. I really wanted a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people probably go to church and it's like slim pickings, you know. It's like there's no one here, and you love your church and your whole family goes to that church, but you're desperately wanting to get married and do the family thing. And you're like, we feel it as women, there's
Mm-hmm.
time constraints.
Yeah.
And there I was 36, you know and my dad was, the kind of dad where he wanted my hair a certain way, so he would go to the lady and pay her, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I would have to get my hair that way. And my hair wants to be kinky curly.
That's your
Especially in
natural
this,
hair.
right, especially in LA in the summer. My hair does not want to be straight. It's like, say what, please. So yeah, so I needed to get away from my dad's influence, and that's
Mm.
not a bad thing. But a lot of people were treating me a certain way because my dad is a great man in the community. He has a congressional, um, award,
Mm-hmm.
for being in the Marines. He was one of the first African American Marines in the 40s, and
Mm.
he got this prestigious award. So I was always kind of in that shadow. But here, people treat me because I'm all they see. They don't know my dad, they don't know this or that.
Yeah.
And I love it. So it was a character thing. It was family, wanting a
Mm-hmm.
family, and I finally said, I have other gifts. I have other gifts. I heard myself saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bassoon. I have
Mm.
other gifts. It's like in the Bible, the person with the 10 talents. What if you only, spun one talent, never
Yeah.
developed the other nine?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you won't go back to that talent, and, but you need to develop. So I had to develop the writing, and I had started my novel. I actually have it here if I can hold it up.
Yes.
So I started writing it in 2010, 2011. And I didn't finish until I was pregnant with my first son.
Okay, wait, real quick. So,
Yes.
because some people are just listening, so she just
Okay.
held up her novel, you guys, and it's called
Mhm.
Waging War. Okay,
Yes.
so carry on. You had just had your son.
Right. So I was editing. while I was pregnant, and I was like, if I don't finish this novel, I'm gonna be a mom. It'll never get finished. So I was pushing the novel and pushing the baby in a matter of speaking.
Wow.
And it finally got out there, and here it is. And I really believe I'm supposed to write another installation of the novel, maybe two more installations, so it'd be like a trilogy, and that will be a little more um, exposure on church culture,
Mm-hmm.
because I know there's a lot of people that have been hurt by the church in the same way I have. I haven't even touched the iceberg,
Yeah.
of the pain that was there in that church. And it was almost like every corner had a painful memory of the
Mm-hmm.
sanctuary. So needing to get away from that, be healed, and be free,
Mm-hmm.
to be yourself, be who God created you to be, and develop those other talents. And I didn't know I could write a novel, and I fought so much fear over this novel. You would be surprised, because I believe everyone has a book in them. I really do. And the fear for me was fear of success.
Mm.
As much as fear of failure. I finally told my husband, I'm like, I'm literally afraid of success as much as I am of failure. And it was like a self-sabotage. It was a war. So I had to get past all of that, get the novel out, and just say, I've cast my bread on the waters, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to see what happens, because I don't want to be on my deathbed going, boy, that novel would have made it. It would have helped someone, and I never wrote it, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but
Whew, that is so good. You know what? I got a million things coming into
okay.
my brain right now. There's so many different directions that I could take this conversation. So I'm like, oh
Mm,
shoot, okay, where do we want to go first? So one thing that really stands out is you talked about being aware of the healing that you needed to
mhm.
experience, that needed to take place. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm thinking about, just as artists and as creatives, it's like we have a process for developing as a creative and as an
Hmm.
artist, but it's almost like the two are intertwined in terms of the healing that has to take place.
Oh,
You know
yes.
what I mean? It's like we
Absolutely. Yeah.
no one is exempt from needing to be healed from something, because we all
Hmm.
are, we're living human beings. So there are things that we experience every day that affect us in different ways, some causing
Yes.
deep trauma, some causing maybe surface trauma.
Hmm.
But it's like,
Yeah.
if we don't take the time to heal through those things, it really does affect what we're able to produce as artists. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's some artists, I could call names, but I won't, where they're so broken, but they're still creating. And what
Yeah.
they're doing is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at them like, boy, if they were healed, they could do so much more.
Yeah.
But that healing journey makes you a healer. And
Mm-hmm.
that healing comes through your art. And it's worth just saying, God, I hurt, I'm broken, and I need you to sit with me in this mess, because I don't know what to do with it, and I can't move forward. And sorry.
No worries.
So,
It's fine.
my munchkins. So I'm thinking of a scene in my life, or I don't mean scene, but like this really happens. So this comes through my art, this, like, this river of bliss. I sketch a lot of angels, and they're very abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a moment in my life where, that moment when you're like, my parents could be wrong about this, and I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm right and they're wrong, but I have to honor them.
Yeah.
That moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a moment when I was locked in the basement of the church,
Mm-hmm.
and I was told to pray until God spoke to me. And I'm like, I just told you he spoke to me. Yeah. And I was like, I was told to read the King James,
Uh-huh.
Romans 12. I needed healing because I was abused through Romans 12. So I don't know
Mm.
if there's anyone out there that has been hurt, um, where someone abused the scripture.
Mm.
I had to go through healing so I could read Romans 12 again. That's crazy. And I didn't understand it. It was in the King James. It's like reading Shakespeare.
Right, right.
And through the healing process, God showed me an angel that was standing over me. And out of that, I've just started sketching angels and here I am. So
And you never
um,
stopped.
I never stopped. Yeah. And some of them have swords um, with fire coming out, like blue fire. Some of them have chains. And sometimes the chains are chains they broke off of me, or
Mm-hmm.
the chains are for whatever was attacking me, and they're going to go get it and cast it back to darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you can see the angels like carrying these little demons away, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my art comes out of. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that deep place of pain. But the healing process, it's hard. You sometimes you have to just be still for 10 years and allow yourself to be,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and for me, wanting a family so bad, and then realizing, especially with my second son, like I need help. I need to be healed so I can be a good mom and a good wife and a good person in the community. Not that I'm a horrible person, but I need to get through some of this because stuff was coming up as I was giving birth, even.
Yeah.
And so I had to get to through that healing place. And then I found that there was much more creativity on the other side of that. Had nothing to do with bassoon, but somehow it's all going to come together, right? And yeah, I mean, I believe probably I will play again in a group when my boys are older. I have that desire, so yeah, definitely. Or at least get my songs published and
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's interesting because that particular thing may have not had anything to do specifically with bassoon, but bassoon was part of the process.
it
So,
was,
you
yeah,
know, like
yeah,
it was all used.
it was, yeah.
It's
And
inspiring. No, go ahead,
thank you. I just thought of another thing. I had asthma as a child,
Mhm.
and it was so bad. Bassoon helped heal my asthma. It really did.
Mm.
Because I had to produce a lot of air.
Yeah.
It's like playing the tuba, except a different mouthpiece. And so having to force yourself to breathe deeply and then control your breathing, eventually my asthma went away in my 20s. So that healing started when I was 10.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. And it just
Hmm.
shows the alternative ways,
Right.
There's not just one way to be healed
Right.
or to
There's,
receive healing. There's so
right.
many different ways. It doesn't have to just come one way,
Hmm.
which is cool.
Exactly. And just like the beautiful rainbow, your soul is multi-layered, and those layers get hurt sometimes, and you need the healing in every layer of your soul. And you have to want it too, you know. Um, yeah, but God's love and
Mhm.
abundance, there's so much love and abundance in his healing touch.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yep. You have to
Yeah,
want it. The
right.
motivation may be different. Well, it's going to be different because everybody's going to have a different motivation. But
Right.
I think when we really get a hold of that thing that, like, I don't know, it's like a real anchor for motivation. It's not like
Yeah.
something fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Then we do pursue the healing, to a point where we actually don't stop until we
Right.
start to like receive or move in the healing.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully we're not talking too cryptic right now, but
I know.
I think people will get it.
I think so. And especially with this last season, like the last 2 years, there's been an added layer where some people just couldn't take it,
Mm.
and others are wondering if it'll ever be over,
Mm-hmm.
and but the healing is still there, and just finding that extra strength to reach for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's there. Yeah.
I think, I've been hearing some different things, and I feel like there are people that are still really struggling right now.
Yeah.
They're not it doesn't seem like they're in a place of like there's light ahead or there's
Mhm.
hope. Um and I mean that's deep, that's heavy, because
Yeah.
I know that you've spoken a lot about God, your relationship
Mhm.
with God, the Lord. And I think there's also something to be said in terms of just the people that we have in our lives that we
Yes.
also
Yeah.
surround ourselves in,
Mm-hmm.
that help us to get or stay in a place of like feeling uplifted or feeling hopeful.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
knowing who to reach out to when we're
Yeah.
like, oh shoot, I'm feeling a little low on hope today. It's
Yes.
looking real dark in here.
Right.
Like, who can I call? Oh, I'm gonna go to that
Exactly.
person because that person I know is always a
Yeah.
light for me. It's like we have to
Right.
have those people that we know who we can connect
Mm.
with and reach out to.
Right. And to stay grounded, um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there's a lot of information out there, and it's a season of fog. It's like, what's going on? What's the truth? And you need those people in your life to help you stay grounded. Um, I wrote a song called 6 Feet Apart is like 6 feet under,
Ooh.
and the human touch,
Mm-hmm.
we've lost that. It started with texting, I think, where instead of going to someone's house, you text them outside their door or something, or
Mm.
and now with not having to stay 6 feet apart from people, that human touch, um, our our souls need that connection with each other.
Mm-hmm.
um, and we're meant to do things in community. We're meant to
Mm-hmm.
do things together, to build beautiful things together, not one at a time. You over there, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sometimes guilty of the texting because I'm
Yeah,
just
me
guilty of
too.
it. I'm not going to give an excuse, but I do consciously, try to make a more concerted effort of,
Right.
calling people and not always texting.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
just only text you. I mean, let's just be real.
Right.
But so I like that you brought that up because I'm just going to
Mm,
continue to, be like, nope, I don't necessarily need to text them. I can actually call them. It's fine.
hmm. Right. Yeah.
um,
Just,
Go ahead.
yeah. And yeah, just thinking about how everyone can be a conduit of healing. Um, you don't have to be a painter or writer. It
Mm-hmm.
could be baking something, or just making an effort to say something nice to everyone you meet. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a compliment can go so far. I know with me, it might go to my head, but
Ah,
it was a compliment, take me for miles,
yeah.
yeah, and just be nice. Yeah.
Just be nice. Now, Ruth,
Hmm.
how long did it take you to write that novel? Because a novel
Yeah.
already, what is that, like 500 pages? That's not a
It's
book. That's
just
not a
over,
children's
yeah.
book, y'all. She wrote a novel, okay?
It's a novel. Yeah. It's just over 300 pages. And it took me 5.5 years
Oh,
to get it.
see?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Just,
Someone listening, it took her 5.5 years. So if you've only
yep.
been working for 5 days, I need you to calm down and
Yeah.
stick with it, okay? You gonna finish it.
Yeah, exactly. And most of that time I was kind of tripping,
Were
like
you?
just, and if I had just stopped writing for everyone you think is going to read it and just write your story,
Mm,
write your story.
it's good
There's
advice.
editors out there. You need to get it on paper first. The editors will help you, you
Yeah.
know, and um, yeah, I believe there's people out there with journals that need to go public, because there's people that would be healed from reading about your experience. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I've been journaling for 20
Yeah.
years. I wonder if that was a word for me. But
Yeah.
okay, so how long, oh, so 5.5 years to write the novel, and then in terms
Yes.
of like publishing it, getting it out there, how much longer did that take? So what was the time frame for the entire completion of the novel project?
Yeah. So um send it to I self-publish, but through Zulon, and it has an ISBN number. It's in the Library of Congress. It's all legit. And
Yes, that's
yeah,
exciting.
and the artwork on the front is not mine because I can't draw a mean dragon. My dragon was like, hey,
Your dragon was
he
chill
was
and
not mean.
healed and cool, like
He was
you.
very chill. So yeah, I had to get somebody to draw the angry red-eyed dragon with the fire and the so and then had editors helping me out, making it pretty, making sure it's all lined up, and Zulon will help you with that whole process.
Okay.
um there are lesser expensive ways to go about it. This
Mm-hmm.
was a very, very expensive way.
Oh, really?
Zulon, but it's a beautiful product, it's
Mm-hmm.
worth the money. But yeah, it was expensive. um and that was part of it. Was like, well, should I? And at one point, this is so funny because I think it was God. I said, well, I'm just gonna get my money back, what I had paid in, because I was paying. And the guy was like, no, God told you to write it. And I was like, who are you?
He's like,
It's
he's
so
gonna give
funny.
you
He's
back
like, God,
more
he
than
gave
what
me
you
a word.
invested in it. Yes, I love that.
Right. He started preaching to me. I was like, okay. So I finished, and yeah, they have editors. You can hire an editor at the end, or you can make sure you have one in your package.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great. I did hire someone outside of Zulon. She helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband read through as well. So and it's okay if you find typos, still let me know. Because you can do additions. I can do a second edition or whatever and
Revision.
fix it. Yeah, revision.
So
Yeah.
you just went to Zulon.com and you were like, hey,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think there's Salem now, but yeah, Zulon,
Salem. How do you spell it? Like
Z S
SALEM?
A L E M. Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Be resourceful. Google it. Now she's telling you what to do.
Yep.
Okay. So you don't have no excuses here.
Right.
Um shoot, I had another. Oh no, it wasn't a question. So you're cool, chill, I'm healed dragon. He's
Yeah.
probably going to be in a future edition because this
He
isn't your
might
only
be. Oh,
novel.
that's a good
So
idea.
he's upcoming.
Yeah.
Later.
Right. Yeah, he's not like Puff the Magic Dragon, but something
I
maybe a
love
little
that
tougher
song.
than Puff. Yeah, that's a cute
The
song.
Magic Drag. That was back in my days when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for taking me back, Ruth. I'll be singing that probably for the rest of the night until I
Right.
get to rehearsal, and then those will play through my head.
Mm-hmm.
But oh, this is what I was gonna ask you. Okay, so during the time when you were like kind of coming out or coming away from the abuse that you had been experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It seems like that went on for a long time. Who helped you through that? Because your parents weren't readily available for that, right? I mean, did the light come on for them in terms of seeing what was going on?
Yeah. Well, my grandma helped me a little bit, my mom's mom. So I
Okay.
would talk to her a lot, and she would cuss about the church people. I love my grandma. I miss her. So I moved to Southern California in 2012, and then she passed in 2015. So I
Mm.
would call her and kind of cry, and then she would be like, beep, 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 church people. And I'm like, Grandma, you can't say that about sister.
So
Well,
and
I guess you're
so.
right. Right. So she taught me how to kind of emote, because of how I was raised was, you got to be one way all the time and quiet. Children can be seen and not heard, kind of, you know.
Mm.
We didn't even have children's church until later. So, yeah, my grandma helped me a little bit, and then I found some friends in Southern California. So, because I'm a trained intercessor, I sort of uh what's the word, almost like a magnet. I found my tribe, so to
Okay.
speak, of intercessors, and they have this thing called inner healing prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like prayer counseling. So I receive healing through the house of prayer. and through my new church.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was good.
That is good, you know, because
Yeah.
I know some people personally that have experienced some things at the hand of organized church and religion,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't always work out where people still stay close to God in those situations.
Of
Sometimes they
course.
end up
Yeah.
pulling away, or you know
Mhm.
what I mean, because the church or the people end up being a direct reflection of God, and it's like they can't get past that, even though
Right.
they are not
Yeah.
God. Like they're still human beings.
Yeah. I
So,
totally understand that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important to develop your relationship, not religion, relationship with God on your own,
Mhm.
and don't be under an organized religion. Just talk to God like you're talking to anybody. He's not delicate. He can handle cussing, he can handle your screaming and crying, and
Yeah.
he's not nervous, you know.
He already
um,
knows.
he knows everything, and he knows the hearts of everyone,
Mhm.
and justice is coming. I mean, we see it, it's here.
Mhm.
So, um, and being able to forgive myself as well was
Mhm.
another big component of my healing. Was stop blaming myself for so much that happened that was out of my control, you
Yeah.
know, and to just allow myself to be. And my self-care went up times
Hmm.
10. Taking better care of myself and just having a season where, okay, I need to take care of myself and be learn more about myself and learn more about what this body needs, what this girl needs, what my mind needs to be well, to be
Mhm.
healed, to be creative, to be a good mom or a good employee or whatever. um, that's important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very important. Very important.
Hmm.
So what's next for you? Do you have something else creatively that you are going to attempt to try that's new, or are you just going to keep writing? I mean, what's on deck, or have you not thought about that yet? You're just being doing the mom thing.
Yeah. um there's so much. Well, I'm definitely wanting to improve my art skills, become a better sketch artist. Um, I have my website up, and you can grab my art on Fine Art America, but you can go through my website, achristianmystic.com. And then I'm working on, when I say working, I mean it's in my head.
Hey, that is working. That's where
The
it
writing,
starts.
yeah, I write things in my head, and then it goes to my notes on my phone, and then it goes to the computer.
Yeah.
That's kind of my process. But I'm working on the part two of the novel where the characters will be a little more developed, deeper, you know.
Mhm.
So there's the art and the writing. I'm
Okay.
very creative. I like to make jewelry. So looking at starting up a jewelry business and making jewelry. I used to do it a lot. And it was one of those things I dropped. And now I need to get back into it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I was looking at law school. I know that sounds crazy,
No, it doesn't. I thought about law
but
school back in the day.
yeah. And of course, this whole thing hit in 2020. So I put it on hold for a while, and I needed to just breathe
Mhm.
and navigate my way through the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I discovered my kids really need me right now. They're so little, so I'm gonna wait until they're bigger. We do homeschool, so sometimes I'm like, God, you send me to all these schools to homeschool. Yes. So yeah, they have very big vocabularies, and we're proud of them. So
Girl, that is
mhm.
crucial. Okay,
Yeah.
you're building a legacy and imparting
Yes.
into your children. I mean, wow, whoa. Does it get much
Yeah.
greater than that? Those are two beings that are gonna move
Mhm.
about and affect the environment and the people and the areas around them. So I think that's pretty
Right.
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I know it's hard. A lot of parents had to all of a sudden homeschool in the last season, but just pace yourself and don't be so hard on yourself is my first advice. don't be perfect, just be sort of organized.
Yeah.
And especially if your kids are like second grade, first grade, kindergarten, 2 hours of school, 5 hours of convincing them to do school is kind of how it works. So that's kind of what it is. And sometimes it's 30 minutes of work and 3 hours of, I'm not going to give you candy till you do your work, you know.
Yeah.
But go take it easy on yourself, and you can do school at night. If your kid is tired in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
start school later in the day, you know. Yeah.
It's like, take it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and what you're saying right now applies to really anybody, like
Mm,
kids or no kids, you know? It's like,
yeah.
don't try to be perfect, be
Right.
organized, take it
Mm-hmm.
easy, handle your
Yeah.
responsibilities during the, daytime if you have to, and then use the evening hours to do
Right.
the other things that you want to do or other things that you need to do related to yourself.
Right. And some employers may let you bring your child to work, and they can work in the corner if you have an office. If you can do that, do it. Um, I had loved going to work with my mom when I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid. She was a teacher, so the kids would give me candy. That was the best part, because she taught high school and they would give me candy. So, and that was my prize for being quiet.
Your prize for being
Yeah.
quiet. Oh, okay. So we're gonna be
Yeah.
wrapping up soon, but as
Sure.
promised, because I know in the intro I said that we would talk a little bit about your mom and
Mm,
and her passing and how that kind of shifted you into health.
yeah.
So why don't you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that?
Sure. My mom passed at age 51, and it was a shock.
Mm,
She was so young, and I could not wrap my mind around it, why she had cancer. I thought liver cancer is something you get when you're drinking. So
mm,
I had to sort of do this deep research and figure out what happened. I
mm-hmm.
needed to know for myself, and then there might have been a little fear of, oh, what if I get it.
Yeah.
um, and it put a passion in me, um, for women's health, and just noticing women who are stressed and how stress can affect your health, um, and I just have a heart for that. And my mom, at the end of the day, there was a lot of stress being a pastor's wife, that you
Yeah.
can't talk about. You don't even know who your friends are sometimes, if they want to be friends with you just to get the latest gossip or find out about somebody else going through something. And
Mm-hmm.
um, prayer meetings can be that way sometimes, just a gossip session. So it was hard. She wasn't sure. And that was a very hard thing for her. So she would talk to me a little bit, and of course, my grandma. So, um, yeah, found out that it was pancreatic cancer, and that spread to the liver. And so I did a lot of research, and I came up with a theory, and then I realized other doctors had come to the same conclusion,
Mm,
and it uh, as to how it started in her body, and
mm-hmm.
how it would probably do the same in my body. And so through that, I felt like, okay, these things, I need to do little tweaks with my lifestyle. So I started, for example, chicken. I would start buying organic chicken as opposed to whatever's on sale,
Mm-hmm.
just spending the extra money, because I think there was an article in Ebony magazine years ago about how the hormones in the chicken affect the Black woman's body in such a way that you really don't want that in your
Mm-hmm.
body. So you need to be careful about just the smallest things, like what brand of chicken you buy. And you do want the organic, non GMO combo in all your food, especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is fluoride in the water. So that's my new passion,
Mm-hmm.
is making sure I drink water with no fluoride. The fluoride will sort of shut off your discernment, and it's designed to do that. So it'll slow you down, slow your thinking, and it has a lot of bad things that it'll do. Um,
Hmm.
So yeah, and the eerie thing about my mother's death is there were other women in the church who died at 51, and
Oh,
that
wow.
was, I thought, well, I need to get away from here. It's like time to go. So,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know if it's just something that needs to be prayed off. Most things can be, God can lift that off, if you
Mm-hmm.
want it, he can just remove it. So, um, to my knowledge, that has sort of stopped. That curse has been lifted or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
to my knowledge. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sure your mom was super proud of all of the things that you had
Yeah.
done and accomplished.
Yeah, she was a good mom, and she drove me to so many rehearsals, and she was I mean, a trooper, I did become a bit of a diva, I think, because I was like, when I made it to the San Francisco Symphony Youth,
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think it went to my head a little bit. And if you're in the Bay, you ride the BART train, and so I would ride the BART and then walk from there, from like Civic Center to Davies Hall. And then on the way back home, she would pick me up at the Fruitvale station. If she wasn't there, back then it was payphones. So I was on the phone, like, where are you at? Like, you're supposed to be here. And yeah, she had a gentle way of teaching me and, helping me through life to understand how life was, supposed to be. She was kind of like the glue in our family, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. And so when she died, it just fell apart. It felt like things really fell apart. Like I was in pieces, something had ripped from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through this season of deep pain and grief after
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, so just being able to get out of that was a miracle that season. Um, so shortly after she passed, I started Cal State. It was 4 years later, I started at Cal State. Um, and I felt like she would want me to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did.
I mean,
Yeah,
wow. I
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that because
sure.
I know that's probably very precious, and
Mm,
I imagine that probably would still always be kind of like a soft tender spot for you. So
yeah,
thank you for sharing that. And
sure.
and I know that I said we're going to be wrapping up, and we are, but I
Yes.
have to ask, how did you get through, that deep grief and that deep
Mm,
pain that you talked about with your mother's passing? I mean, was like, just how
yeah.
did you do it?
Well, going back to when I was locked in the church, I was 13, and I knew God's voice at 13. I knew God's voice when I was 5. And so I had to just talk to God.
Mm-hmm.
And He told me it's time to get off the couch. I said, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I I got on the train and I went and talked to Rufus, and he was like, "Why are you
Rufus.
here?"
I love Rufus. I don't
Yeah,
even
he
know
was
him, but I
great.
love him.
He's a great guy, great therapist, but
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
he looked at me in a funny way I'll never forget. He's like, "Why are you here?" And it was so funny the way he said it. And I was like, "Can I talk to you?" I literally went to the opera house in San Francisco and I walked in and they let me in. I
Aw.
told them I'm his student, and the guard was like, "Well, he's not here. Write him a note." I was writing the note, and Rufus walked in behind me, and he's like, "Why are you here? Do we have a lesson? Why are you here?" It's funny.
Wow, that's divine.
And he's like, "Come with me." And underneath the opera house, there's plexiglass practice rooms, so you can practice in the room, and no one will hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me down into one of those, and we talked, and it changed my life. And I
Mm.
had enough energy to apply to Cal State. And he said, there was a season between So my mom passed when I was at the San Francisco Conservatory. I don't think I put that in there.
No, you
So
didn't.
I went from the bachelor's at the Bible College, and then I did a year at the Conservatory of
Hmm.
Music. My mom died in the middle of that. I got hit by a car. Like everything went wrong.
Wow.
And I was like hobbling around. And then um, they were going to play Handel's Messiah, which is
Mm,
huge. That's like the thing for
yeah.
Christmas. And I was on a cane, and I didn't have a car, so I couldn't play. So I had to like surrender my part to this person I was in competition with.
Mm.
This other girl. I was like, you can play because I can't. And it was just like so depressing.
Oh.
Then my mom died, and so there's all this stuff happening, and I just after she died, I quit the conservatory. I'm like, I need a break.
Mm,
And 4 years, and then I went to see Rufus that day, and he said, don't go back, because he knew my personality, and he knew that it would crush me to go
mm,
back there. He's like, go to Cal State, it's cheaper. And you'll
mhm,
have all the same teachers.
mhm.
You'll have me.
Yeah.
Because the way it works, you can pick your teacher at Cal State. So I picked Rufus. So um, that was the beginning of coming out of that dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, mhm.
That's
Yes.
good stuff. Good stuff. There's so much to your story. I know we
So
could
much.
just continue to talk, but people, this is enough for them to take in. Okay. We've been on here for
Yes.
like an hour.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, you know what? I'm going to have you back on. I've yet to have somebody
Sure.
come back on, but it's
Hmm.
going to happen. Okay. This is
Sure.
not the
Mhm.
permanent end of our conversation. This is the beginning of many.
Yes. Yeah. I feel
So,
young. I mean, I feel like life's just beginning. That's another way to approach life. Like,
mhm.
don't don't tell yourself that you're old
Yeah.
and that you're too old for no.
I never use the word old.
Never.
I don't
Hmm.
get old. If anything,
Yeah.
I get a little more seasoned, a little more spicy.
Right.
Ooh.
Exactly. Age like fine wine, right?
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, one more time, let's tell people how they can find your book, how they can find you,
Hmm.
connect with you. Let's do that real quick before I bring us out.
Sure. So my website is a christianmystic.com, and my email is info@achristianmystic.com. So, and you can see on my website, I have links to my book on Amazon, and it's on Kindle, and links to my art on Fine Art America. So, yeah, it's all there.
Beautiful. And you guys, that was Ruth Angela Patton, in case you forgot the
Hmm.
name. Okay, remember it, bookmark it. More to come from her. We are
Hmm.
going to get ready to wrap up this episode, though. You have been listening to For the Artists, a podcast brought to you by Creative M Projects, which is a nonprofit organization helping young artists develop from the inside out. I would love to invite you to become more involved in what we're doing to help artists, or shoot, get some help yourself if you are an artist or a creative. And you know what? Help is not a dirty word, because we all need help and we all need assistance, okay?
Hmm.
Support and encouragement. Let me just say that. So, if you're interested in any of those things, signing up to be a volunteer, signing up to get services, go to the website www.creativemprojects.org. All right, y'all, you already know what I'm going to tell you do what I'm going to tell you to do, and that is to keep creating from the inside out. Till next week, y'all, peace and love. Bye.